Hello, welcome to the Ultimate Sports Show. This is around the NBA playoff edition. Welcome, everybody. We are together again. Manny, Medina, guys, it's great to have the band back together again here. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Back like we never left.
Medina, it's great to have you back. You're always missed on here whenever we get a chance to not have you on here. You are a big piece of our puzzle here, so it's good to have you back and good to be back again. Obviously, let's get into it, guys. We got to go over Monday night's games. Obviously it was a big deal what happened, and the Boston Miami Thunder, Pelicans, Lakers, the heartbreaking. I mean, literally that was heartbreaking. Not one, but two game-winning closeouts by Jamal Murray. That was tough. It was very tough. I mean, look, we're fans of this game, but I'm sorry when you're really doing everything you possibly can to really turn this series around. It really is a crusher, and besides the other games we'll get into those games, but obviously where does the Lakers go from here? Like I guess that's the real biggest question. Is there's a lot of pieces to look at, and I mean you guys the floor is yours. I mean what you guys think ultimately on the series, and where do you think the Lakers go really from here right now?
I don't know where we go from there. Honestly, if I'm going to give my personal opinions,
yeah, please do.
There's actually a hierarchy list of what we can do. The thing is, and I'm sure every single Laker fan, including us, can agree on this. Fire Darvin Ham, because his rotations have been very bad. Like, you guys saw it last night. Like, we had Jared Vanderbilt come back. Hey, what's good, big baby? What's poppin'? But either way, as I was going to say,
yeah,
we had Jared Vanderbilt come back. We had Christian Wood come back. Why were they not on the court? Like, everybody knows Denver plays big. So, to have Christian Wood on the court, to have Jackson Hayes on the court for like maybe a little bit, it made absolute no sense. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is we need to have closers on this team. We need shot makers on this team. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at these 5 games we played in that series, we had a halftime lead in all of them. 4 out of those 5 games, we were up 20 plus. And we just let it choke. And we need some defenders as well. 3 and D. When I mean shot makers, I mean guys who could also play defense as well. Like, the Denver has KCP on their team. We're missing a guy like that. I know he wasn't KCP in that series, but he was still a factor in that series. So also we needed that. And then another thing is that we need consistent players. And the reason why I say consistent players is because I'm not trying to knock D'Lo, because I was very happy last year when we got him back, because I loved the guy ever since we drafted him back in 2015. But he has been incredibly inconsistent. Like, you did not go inside a playoff game. Game 3, inside Staples Center. That's right, Staples Center, not crypto. 0 points. 0 freaking points. Like, tell me how that makes sense. If you're starting on the LA Lakers, I understand there's pressure, but you have to be able to build off that pressure. And the fact that you had 0 points in that game was one of the reasons why we lost. Well, that and also Aaron Gordon having a masterclass. That was another thing. But in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of question marks in this offseason. But also another thing that I want to say, looking into the offseason for the Lakers, once the draft comes, the best center that is available at the 17th pick, you take him. Whether it's a Donovan Clingan, whether it's a Zach Edey. By the way, shout out to Zach Edey that he made the Final Four, the title game with Purdue. He played phenomenal. And then also another guy, Kalel Ware, out of Indiana University. one of those three guys, if they are available, Rob, I don't know if you're listening to this. You're probably not listening to this, but if you are, take one of those. You never know, exactly. Take one of those three guys, and the next coach that you hire, because I do believe we will fire Darvin Ham, next coach you hire, tell the coach, you play that guy next to Anthony Davis, and if you don't, your job is on the line. That's my personal opinions on where the Lakers go.
All right. I guess I'll add my take to it now.
Go for it.
Try to keep it short and sweet. Yeah, the Lakers and Denver series. Denver is a very good team. I'm going to give them credit where credit's due. They have guys that are consistent shooters, not just Jokic and Murray. They got Michael Porter Jr., they got Aaron Gordon. Even KCP had a great playoff series run there. However, at the end of the day, I still think that Lakers had a better team. Or else we wouldn't have been leading most of those games we were up. And I think what just really failed us at the end was our inconsistent shooters like D'Lo. Like, as much as I do like him, I feel like his basketball is the reason why we were able to get so far in. It's not enough though to take us to a championship. And I'm sorry, but he's got to go. There's so many players on that team that have got to go. Anthony Davis and LeBron James cannot carry that team alone. Even though they're a great dynamic duo, they still got to have some good backup there. I think the only consistent shooter and who's great on defense is Austin Reeves. He's shown some heart. I know he's still trying to be aggressive, trying to kind of get a feel where his place is when he's out there on the floor. But I could see that he had heart in those Denver games, and he really wanted it. As for the other players, everyone just looked lost. No one really knew what to do. Everyone was kind of scared to take charge and do what they had to do to help LeBron and AD. And then, there's just so much reforming that has to be done. And I think the first place we start is, firing our coach. I think we can all agree that Darvin Ham has got to go. He's not benefiting this team one bit. And I think we had a good team. I think we could have beaten Denver. The stats are all there. But for some reason, we couldn't do it. We should have at least had 3 games that we won. Those 3 games, one game we didn't win. The 2 other games we should have won. Those games that we lost in those buzzer beaters. And it's just, as a coach and as a GM, you really gotta take a step back and you gotta realize, what am I doing here? What am I doing here that's wrong? How do I get my team to be more consistent? How do I get my team to not be swept or not to lose to the same team 12 times in a row? You got to start asking yourself the hard questions, and you got to start reforming somewhere. I hope LeBron and AD stay. I would hate to see the team break apart like that. But, we don't know what's going to happen this offseason. We don't know anything can happen. Anything's possible. We can make predictions, but at the end of the day, something always takes us by surprise, and something happens that we never even saw coming. So I hope we just make some big moves with that so we can have the Lakers, at least in the champ. We can see them win one more championship with LeBron still on the team. That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
That's all you can hope for. That's
facts.
That's all you can hope for. And look, obviously, to point out, injuries were a big part of the team. The Lakers had inconsistency with their lineups, their rotations. A lot of people are really getting on Darvin Ham about a 3-guard lineup that we saw a lot. And even during the Denver series, you have, I got the privilege of jumping on the radio after the game last night and calling in. And, the first thing everybody was saying on the radio, obviously shout out to ESPN LA. And all people were saying is, look, it's the coach. You got to make adjustments. If you don't make adjustments in the playoffs, that's what really kills you. If you still resort to the same lineups that you're going to go with, the small guard lineups, that's not going to win you a game. You're not going to be as competitive. You're not going to be you're not going to make it a great series. Like, look, if this was a series down to the line and this series is tied 3-3 going, and we're going into a game 7 here because both teams built the same way, both with big guys, both with size, both just attacking the rim. It's a whole different story with this series. But Denver, by far, obviously, they have the size. They knew how to make their runs when they needed to make them, and they were the better team. And that's where the Lakers just have to say, look, we didn't make adjustments. That's something that falls on the coach. That's something that falls on Rob Pelinka. Something that falls on Lakers owner Jeannie Buss. So, there's changes that need to be made in LA, and changes that I'm sure we'll see more of, as we get into the off season. Obviously we'll be checking in with all the off season moves and any news that happens as well. We'll try and get on here as much as we can and break the news and recap it all with you guys. But, obviously going into the rest of the games as well, Boston and Miami, Thunder obviously sweeping the Pelicans. I think in the same time, I think obviously everyone thought that maybe that Miami Boston game was going to be a good game. Obviously, the Celtics have absolutely dominated the series. They're going to be without Porzingis in the game tomorrow. Do you guys think there's any chances of the Heat at all coming back in this series at all, making it any kind of competitive, or you think it's just going to go the Celtics way in this time?
Well, my personal opinion, I would have picked the Heat to probably force a game 6 or game 7, but
yeah.
When you don't have your best player, I always say depth wins you series and wins you games. Yeah. When you don't have your best player, it just doesn't feel right. Like, the fact that there was no Jimmy Butler, like, credit to the Miami Heat. They actually went inside Boston game 2 and won. But the thing is, you can't hope for a shot cure all the time. Hey, shout out to Tice.
Shout out to Tice.
Anyways, that's what I was going to say. Like,
yeah.
Without your best player, how do you expect to win? Jimmy Butler literally carries that whole team. He literally averages like 25 and 6 a game. Like, without him, it's going to be tough. I understand Bam Adebayo is a great defender, but Porzingis is significantly taller. Mind you, he will have an advantage because Porzingis is dealing with an injury. He might not play the next game. But the fact that is, much as I hate to admit it, Boston is a very, very good team. Like, Tatum is an MVP candidate. As much as we hate to say it, he is. Jaylen Brown, even though he's crazy high paid, he is a great sidekick to Jason Tatum. But also, they have, in my opinion, the most underrated player in the NBA in Derek White. Because when that guy is on, he is on. And I know because I went to watch the Lakers play the Celtics this year. I saw the way Derek White plays, and as much as I hate to admit it, I would love a guy like that on our team because he just plays so hard every single night, and he's one of those unsung heroes, and that's going to be an interesting thing for Boston in these playoffs. Mind you, I still think a Western Conference team is going to take it this year, but Boston is my front runner to make the finals.
Go for it, Medina.
I think I'm with Manny on this one. As much as I'm rooting for Miami to pull a miracle without playoff Jimmy there, I think Boston is going to take this one. Maybe Miami has it in them to win one more game. I'm hoping at least make them work for it a little bit more and wear them out. But yeah, unfortunately, just to keep it nice and simple.
Yeah.
Not voting for Boston, but I'm 90% sure they're going to take this serious, unfortunately.
It's what it looks like. But obviously, looking ahead, obviously obviously with the rest of the games, and obviously Denver looks like obviously they're going to be playing the Timberwolves. So looking ahead of that, how do you, Manny? We'll go with you first. How do you think this matchup looks between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves? I think it's going to be a hell of a series. I think that series could easily go 7 games. Mm-hmm. I think they're very well. I think both teams are very well matched in size, in the paint especially. Gobert, Towns, Anthony Edwards playing out of his mind, and he is not getting enough credit as he should as well.
Thank you.
How do you I mean, how do you guys think this series should look ahead for the Nuggets and the Timberwolves? Obviously, I think 7 games easily.
Oh, 1,000%. If you see the way these teams are played, they are so evenly matched. Now, does Minnesota have a player like Jokic? Hell no. But the thing is, it's just the depth that Minnesota has along with Denver's depth. Like, even though Mike Conley's on his older side, he's not the same player as he used to be on Memphis. He can still play good defense on Jamal Murray. Mind you, Jamal Murray is a shot killer, so we'll see how that goes. But also, it's also the depth that Minnesota has in the big man slot. Naz Reid, by the way, shout out to him that he won 6th Man of the Year. I would actually kind of start him in this series. And the reason why I say that is because think of the defense he would be able to play on Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. That would be incredibly interesting to see because Aaron Gordon, we all know how physical he is. We all know Michael Porter Jr. is physical as well. But Naz Reid is a bully if you cross him in the paint. And that would be interesting to see. But also, if there's one guy, because thing is, we're not Timberwolves fans, but if a Timberwolves fan is watching, a key to that series would be putting Rudy Gobert right on Nikola Jokic because this guy has 3 Defensive Player of the Years on his belt. If there's one guy you want defending Nikola Jokic, it is definitely Rudy Gobert because we all know he's going to get in him. He's going to make his life a living hell in the paint, on the offensive end, on the boards. You need someone like Rudy Gobert to be on Jokic. If that happens, I think Timberwolves could take it. But if not, Denver will easily represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals.
You know what? I actually agree with you on that, Manny. That would be a pretty good matchup against Nikola Jokic. If anyone's going to stop him, it would be Rudy Gobert. I mean, he wouldn't be a D-point nominee, right? If he wasn't one of the best defenders. But other than that, you know what? I think this is going to surprise a lot of people, but I say that Wolves can take them in game 5 or 6 at the most.
Wow.
Okay, watching the Laker and Denver series, guys, don't get me wrong. Denver's a great team. They have what it takes. I could be completely wrong here, but I really feel like what made them the better team again in that Lakers series was that we allowed them to be the better team. Like we had it in us. We had the team. We had the guys. We were up most of the time in that series. But you know, the Timberwolves, they're a solid team. They have every piece of the puzzle, anything that it takes to beat a team like the Nuggets, and I really think they can shut them down in 5 or 6 games, in game 5 or 6. You know, that's my personal opinion. If I'm wrong, you guys can drag me down on the next podcast show. But I think if any team can stop the Nuggets, it's gonna be the Timberwolves.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that series. That series is going to be, I mean,
game 5.
If it's not the most watched series, I mean, obviously, yes, there's still another series going on as well. Clippers, Mavs, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But obviously that series right then and there is not one of the most watched series of the playoffs. I'd be shocked just because of how good both teams are. All you want is a 7-game series, and obviously, people thought that, and the Lakers Nuggets didn't go that way. All you can ask for in this game would be a 7-game series. Now, the fun part of the show. So it's coming up on that time where we have the awards, and obviously, there is the 2 big awards that go out. Obviously, most of the other awards were already announced, but we're going to obviously start with the Kia Most Valuable Player. The nominations are Luka Doncic, SGA, and Nikola Jokic. Guys, what are your opinions? Who do you think is going to win the Kia's Most Valuable Player award this year?
Honestly, I've been going back and forth on my predictions for MVP. Now, personally, in my opinion, I find it wild that Anthony Edwards is not in that conversation because they are a top 3 seed and he has been carrying that team in the entire season. And even though I feel like he broke out last year, this year was by far his best season. But if you're gonna go by those three candidates that were nominated, it pains me to say this because he did take us out 2 times in a row now. Jokic, I can't say Jokic will not win it because even they were top 2 in the West, and the fact that he can get triple doubles as a center, he could pass literally like Steve Nash, and he's a big man, which is crazy to say. I don't see how Nikola Jokic doesn't win MVP. I was thinking about Luka for a bit, but then after seeing the way that that Game 4 in Dallas was being played, that Kyrie absolutely just carried that whole team, I'm going Jokic. Jokic is going to win the MVP.
You know, as much as I want Luka to win it, I have to agree with Manny here. You know, Jokic is a consistent player. Every single game you see him come through. He's outstanding. I don't see why he wouldn't win it. I hate to admit it because, like Manny said, he crushed our team again, 2nd year in a row. But I mean, there's a reason why he did, and that's because he's MVP.
Literally. I think, I think if, and this is why I'll throw my audible out here, the one guy on this list that's not getting enough credit, who had the best, the number 1 seed in the Western Conference this year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm going to really throw it on about that. I think he honestly has a legitimate chance. Why? Because look at what the Thunder have done this year. I mean, look at how bad the Thunder have been for years and years. Mm-hmm. And I mean, look at just how great he's been. I mean, Manny. I mean, I know he's one of your favorite players as well, but I mean, he's been absolutely dominant this year. I mean, obviously Luka is Luka. You get what you get with Luka. He's been banged up as well. I know he's dealing with some a knee injury as well. But I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think he has a chance too. I mean, look, I think Joker's obviously could very well win it as well. Just how he played in general in the regular season, how he plays. Obviously, tremendous player, and pain in the Lakers' butts a little bit. But he's obviously a hell of a basketball player, but I think Shai could actually win this as well.
Honestly, the Canadian in me would love to see Shai get it, but I just can't bet against Jokic. Like, he's like Medina just said it. He's consistent as hell. Like there's no way I wouldn't see him win it. And like I said, I went back and forth between him and Luka, but just to see Kyrie just carry the Mavericks the last game, like, I don't know. Like, but obviously, Aaron, like, I would love to see Shai. Just because as a Canadian, I would love to see Shai get it. That would make me very happy to see.
Yeah.
And by the way, shout out to OKC because they do have a local Montrealer in Lou Dort. Like, if I had to pick one team to win it, that's not the Lakers. Like, I would be very, very happy to see OKC win the championship this year.
Oh, that'd be something.
I would be very happy to see that.
Amazing. Well, we get into that. We get into the MVP. Now, obviously, there's the big award, which we all have our thoughts on this one. The Kia NBA Defensive Player of the Year award. Obviously, Bam, Rudy Gobert, and Victor Wembanyama from the Spurs. Who do you guys think? And obviously, I know how some people feel in here. I know we could look at this whole thing and we know that there's somebody should be on that, and they're not. I will definitely let that particular person be answered by Medina. So, but Manny, who you got winning the Defensive Player of the Year award this year?
I mean, I'm not going to touch on that person that we're going to mention. But I do think it's rigged that the NBA wouldn't put him as a nomination. But if we're gonna go through, that those three guys, I mentioned Bam before in the beginning of the show that I think that he's gonna do a tremendous job defending Kristaps Porzingis, and now especially that he's not gonna be there. By Kristaps, I hope he gets better for Boston's sake, even though we know how we feel about Boston. But I'm going to pick Bam Adebayo just because he's just incredible on defense. And think about it, guys. He's not even that tall. He's literally 6'9". The other guys in that nomination are close to 7 feet tall. And he is just so underrated. I feel like nobody gives Bam Adebayo the credit. So my money on Defensive Player of the Year for the 3 nominations, I'm going Bam Bam.
All right, Medina, the floor is yours.
Well, what can I say? And you guys already know. I am shocked. I'm sure many people are shocked to not see Anthony Davis on that list. I'm not just saying that because I love the man to death, but this was one of AD's. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was the best series AD had with the Lakers, maybe since 2020, but dude was amazing defensively, and he doesn't even get on the top 3. That just blows my mind. It just feels like the NBA is rigged at this point. There's a script that they're following, and they're making sure Lakers don't get any credit where credit's due. But I mean, if my man's was on that list, I'd definitely say Anthony Davis in a heartbeat, just because I've seen him play throughout the year, and he's just been amazing. I mean, since he isn't on that list, though, I won't go on and on the way I want to about him. To be honest with you, I honestly haven't watched these 3 guys play as much this year. I was mainly focusing on Laker games, but just kind of looking at everyone's stats here, I wouldn't actually be surprised if, Wembanyama, I'm sorry if I'm saying
you got it. Wembanyama.
If he takes it, I mean, Manny made a great point. He's tall AF, so he has the advantage there of being one of the best defensive players in the league coming up. And so if he doesn't win it this year, I'm for sure he's gonna win it next year. He did great. I love watching him play. I mean, that guy is incredible. As for Rudy Gobert, I'm just going off based on what I've seen from him in the past, and hopefully what I see upcoming in the Denver series. But if anyone, I maybe he was my second pick. I think he could be. If it's not Wembanyama, it's gonna be Gobert, just because of how consistent he usually is on the defensive side as well. I didn't really get to see Bam play too much this year, so I don't really have much of an opinion to give on that, to be honest. But yeah, that's my take on Depoy of the Year. Anthony Davis deserved that. Just saying. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Oh yeah, I mean we all know AD definitely should have been up there. It's the most games he's played in a while as well. Obviously. I'm torn between who I want to see win this award as well. Obviously, one person we all want to see win this award is not on the list, and he should be. And that's where we could all be mad at the NBA and the writers that decide to vote him in. Just the people want to keep voting him out. Let them vote him out. Just put the work in on the floor, and that's all you can do. Exactly. Just keep balling and keep playing great, and hopefully just continue to stay healthy, because I think that's his biggest thing as well. The thing that he's been struggling the most with is getting his number of games back up there and just being on the court as much as he can. So obviously shout out to him as well. But obviously I think Gobert is going to get it. He's been unbelievable this year. Unbelievable. They've had a great year. Minnesota's been a hell of a team. He's just been balling like crazy. I definitely say Rudy Gobert probably is going to win this Defensive Player of the Year award as well. So, now obviously, we touched on this a little bit on our show back on Monday. Manny and I touched on this as well, about our thoughts about the officiating as well. We'll let Medina get her chance to get it in there. Obviously, what her thoughts is on the NBA officiating this year, differences versus the regular season, the playoffs. Why is it different? But obviously, the one thing we did not talk about because it's better to save it for all of us together, is the in-season tournament. We really didn't talk about that much. Obviously, the brackets for the play-in tournament are different. Obviously, the playoffs, just the way they staggered up this year, that's a little different as well. But what do you guys think ultimately of the tournament this year? How did you like it? Do you think it should be something that they keep around in the NBA for years to come? What do you guys think on that?
Okay, so my initial thoughts about the in-season tournament, I literally think that it's a fun way to make a playoff atmosphere for October, November, December. But do I think it's a legitimate trophy? No. And now look, as a Laker fan, I'm happy we won it, but the thing is, we want the real thing, you know? We want to win the actual NBA championship. We don't want to win, what's it called, the NBA Cup. But at the same time, like I said, it brings a playoff feeling to November and December, which I like, because mostly November and December games are mostly very dormant and very, like, you know, at ease, if you think about it. But the thing is, I like the whole playoff atmosphere it brought. What I didn't like also is some of the NBA courts that they showed. Like I feel like a lot of them had too much light in them, too much color in them. Like sometimes when the ball went out of bounds, you didn't know where the ball was going at the same time. You didn't know where the threes were going. You didn't know where the paint was at most of the time. So if they do the in-season tournament next year, which I believe they will, I believe that they're gonna bring this every single season to the NBA. Just put the normal courts on. Like Adam Silver, probably not listening to this, but put the normal courts on. Don't put those colorful courts. Like it literally looks like the Nintendo Switch game there, Splatoon. It literally looks like that. Like, put the normal courts on, guys. Come on. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know about these courts, because you had to play in Vegas too, and it's like, you know, you don't have your court. You should be able to say, okay, no matter where you're going to go, if you're the home team, you should be able to say, great, have us have a court that can be used, you know, wherever you're going to put it. So I don't know. I think the court thing was a little too much. The jerseys were cool, but go ahead, Medina.
In my opinion, the in-season tournament, they just added it in to give the regular season a little bit of a kick to it. And honestly, if the Lakers didn't really make it that far, I wouldn't have zero care about what happened in the in-season tournament. The only thing that made it exciting for me was just watching the Lakers play it and winning it, of course. But other than that, I think it's just, personally, I don't like it. I think it's just a waste of time, money. It's exerting more of the players' energies and more prone to injury. I don't see why they just can't shorten up the season a few games, because if they just did that, then we wouldn't be seeing all these great players going down with injuries by the time playoffs come around. So why are you trying to put them all into this competitive tournament so early on in the season and giving it their all for something that, yeah, it's fun to watch, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think what really matters is getting our players to all ready and healthy, to completely healthy when it comes to playoff time. So I personally don't like the in-season tournament. I'm not a fan of it. I enjoyed it for the sake of the Lakers, but
yeah,
even going forward, like, I don't really care for it. Honestly, it still kind of is. It was confusing for me to follow along with the rules and how everything worked, and it still kind of is, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I kind of hope they get rid of it. It's not worth it to me. It was cool, but they gave it a shot. I don't think they need to do it again, in my opinion. Different take on that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm an old school fan of it. So like, I think that, you know, take away this play-in tournament and make this all-star game competitive again. Yeah. You know, I think that should be a winner right there, is take the all-star game and actually make it a legit game again, and not just a how many points are we going to score and why are we going to score 100 plus points by the time we're at the half.
My God, that stupid target score. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, and you know, it's like just take away the play-in tournament. You know, make these games just 82 game season.
Wait, sorry, can I say something real quick? Are you talking about play-in or in-season tournament?
The in-season.
In-season.
Okay. I have one more thing to add to that. This
Go
really
for it.
like
Go
this
for it.
really
Go for it.
irked me. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
But the way they were trying to make this exciting to watch was like, oh, if you win the in-season tournament, the players are gonna get 500K plus
Oh my
like
god, I
bonus.
agree.
I'm
It's
like, I'm
Oh
stupid.
my
sorry.
god.
As much as I love LeBron and AD, I'm like, those guys already make millions. I'm like, I don't care if they win another 500K. What does that benefit me at the end? What does that do for me at the end of the day? Either like, hey, if this team wins, Laker fans, like the Lakers won the in-season tournament, you guys get this. You guys get half-price tickets or half-price jerseys. Like that's something that would be fun to like follow along with. But the players getting more money and like that didn't sit right with me. I'm like, that's not catching my attention.
Same. It was dumb. The 500K thing. Like, come on.
You don't need it. Like you know,
you don't need it.
no, your players are already making so much money in an NBA season that why do you need an extra amount of money? It should just be get rid of this tournament.
Yeah.
Make the All-Star game competitive. Make it whoever wins, whoever whoever wins, obviously, take advantage of like maybe, obviously go back to what it used to be, certain things of like, hey, if you won and you're the Western Conference, you get first dibs on home court, something in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Like, just bring back things you used to have in there. Obviously they brought back the West and the East, which is great. Obviously Manny and I were thrilled about that one. But, obviously the big thing you didn't get a chance to touch on as well, Medina, your thoughts on the NBA officiating. And also why is it different in your opinion between the regular season and the playoffs? Why is there a difference? And what was your opinion on this NBA season?
Are you officiating as in like refs officiating the game, everything? Oh God. I think refs overall, season and playoffs, I think during the playoffs they sucked even more. I don't know what's going on with these refs. I don't know what they're smoking before the games, but they're calling out the weirdest things, and they're not calling out things they should be calling out. Now, for example, I'm a Laker fan, but I'm not really the biggest LeBron fan. So whenever he flops, I can tell. But there are so many calls this playoff series that the refs did not give him, and he had every right to be upset because it's like I don't know if the refs, if they're getting paid to look the other way, or if they just really don't know what the hell to do when they're out there, or they're just trying to people please. But I don't know, man. The refs, they kill the game, in my opinion. I mean, we've seen it countless of times during the season games. We've seen it during the playoffs. Honestly, just to keep it short and simple, I think the officiating has been terrible. I think the NBA needs to retrain their refs here, because not even as Laker fans, I see like so many people going for different teams, rooting for different teams, where they see that the refs are missing something. There's something that needs to be done about that for sure, because it's not just one team one team's fans that are saying that. It's several teams that I've been seeing it for. Everyone's frustrated with that. And at that point, you just got to, again, take a step back and ask yourself the hard questions, like, what do we need to do about this? Who do we need to get rid of? Or do we need to retrain? Or do we need to bring in someone with more experience here? Not cheap out with these refs. Got to bring in good, solid people that make a fair judgment, a fair call. I mean, you're not always going to win everyone's hearts at the end of the day, of course, but you got to make the right calls. That really does make or break the games here.
Oh, yeah. And
I did bring it on in the last show that I feel like it has to do with betting as well. I feel like the whole betting, I feel like there's like money on the side for the refs as well. Like my personal opinion, I think it has to do with betting as well. This whole refs being garbage the whole season and then on.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's, all we want is consistency. I think that's the biggest thing anybody wants. All NBA fans wants. It's like if you're gonna call a foul, if you're gonna, obviously the biggest rule that they really watched out for was the James Harden rule, which is the 3-point attempt. and I think they've been really good. I think that's the one thing they've been better about this year. Just obviously not letting him particularly, and like a lot of people that would do it as well, that would try and just chuck up a basket just to try and draw contact to it. I think they've been better. I think that they were better about the challenge system. I think needs still some work to be done.
Yes, that for sure.
Yeah.
If you challenge something and you're successful, why the hell are you gonna lose your timeout over that? Is that how that's how it works? Yeah.
That is beyond stupid. I totally agree with that.
Lakers last night, they could have easily won that game. They had a successful challenge. Why the hell did they have to lose their timeout over that? That could have made a whole big difference to the game. That's so stupid in my opinion.
That was really dumb. I agree.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, there's all you can hope for is that Adam Silver does something about it going into the next season, and hopefully he really listens to fans. I mean, I know he's always open to hearing what people think and hearing what other basketball players, their inputs on it. I hope they do something about it, because it is ridiculous. Like, if you have a challenge and you win it, you should be able to retain your timeout. Even if it's not a full timeout, like even if it's if you have a challenge, it's a 30-second timeout or 20-second timeout. Even if it's not a full timeout, like at least you can actually retain something to give your guys either a breather for a second and or just advance the ball, because that could have been huge as well. Obviously you go back to the Lakers Nuggets game last night. If they were able to keep their timeout, you get the ball back, you have a chance to tie the game up, and all Darvin Ham could have done is just call the timeout, advance the ball, and you're in very good shape to potentially tie it and not in such a tight spot. So, obviously those little things right there can affect the game, and that's the unfortunate part that they haven't gotten right yet with the officiating. Let's get into tomorrow's game. The Celtics and the Heat, and the Mavs and the Clippers. Who do you guys got winning the games tomorrow? Obviously, that game looks like it's pretty much going to be a done deal, but Porzingis isn't playing in that game, and nobody knows yet if Kawhi Leonard's going to be available as well. So Kawhi Leonard is not going to be available as well. So he will not be available, so they'll be without him. What's your take on it, and how do you think these series are going to look the rest of the way?
It's gonna be very interesting to know, because I mentioned that Porzingis is dealing with injuries. I mentioned that Jimmy Butler is out for the series, so it's gonna be very, very tough to call. Do I think Boston wins that series? Yes, but it's gonna be a little tougher now without Porzingis, because I mentioned Bam Adebayo is my pick to win Defensive Player of the Year, and we all know how physical he is on the inside, and we all know how great he is on defense. So Celtics are going to have a hard time guarding him on the paint. But they have their shooters, so I feel like Boston will be fine. But the thing is, the Mavericks-Clippers game is going to be also very interesting, because even though Kawhi Leonard is not playing, they did manage to win. Mind you, they did blow a 30-point lead or something like that. But they did manage to win, and Paul George has been phenomenal. Much as I don't want to admit it, like, Paul George has been fantastic in that series. So even though I have Mavericks in 6, I do think Clippers could manage to probably have a chance to take that series, because Paul George has been so phenomenal. But who else has been phenomenal? A guy I mentioned before in this series, Kyrie Irving. He literally carried the Mavericks in that series, which is crazy. Like, I thought Luka was going to be the best player in that series, but Kyrie has just been phenomenal. And the way it's looking, Mark Cuban and the Mavericks would be fools to not bring this guy back.
I 100% agree, Manny. Kyrie has been phenomenal. I do have my pick. Not just saying this because I'm not really a big fan of the Clippers, as you all know, but I think Mavs are just a better team at the end of the day. And it's kind of sad to say this, but Clippers have actually been doing better without Kawhi, in my opinion. So I think they're okay without him. If anything, they're actually gonna win their game without him tomorrow. But I'm hoping Luka and Kyrie just do their thing and they take this serious. And Clippers are always known for choking in the playoffs, so I wouldn't really be surprised to see them knocked out in the first round. Just saying, this could go to a game 7, but I don't really see them going to the second round.
Hey, it's the part of the Clippers that people they haven't, no one's really seen it. Like the Clippers, I give them a lot of credit. Last year they went to the Western Conference Finals. They did phenomenal last year in the playoffs. But it's about like, hey, can they get to that? Can they take the next step? Can they get out of the first round of the playoffs now? How do they go against being consistent? Does Paul George show up the same way? I mean, don't get me wrong, he was amazing. And that game, obviously, the Clippers were up 31 in the game, and they almost blew a 31-point lead. That would have been the talk of the town there. Paul George hit some big shots for them in that game. Clutch fadeaway three, clutch jumper to basically ice this game. Obviously, look, I'm gonna say that I think potentially Dallas could win this game because you don't know the status of Kawhi Leonard. You don't know if he's going to play at all, basically, at this point. The rest of the way in the playoffs, you don't know what his status is going to be. And it falls on all the other guys. Obviously, Zubac's been huge for them as well in the paint. The Clippers have been kind of doing what a lot of Denver and Minnesota has been doing, is playing in the paint a lot. Obviously, the guy that doesn't get enough credit is Plumlee as well. They have Plumlee when they don't have Zubac in there. They have Plumlee. He's been great for them as well. I think in the end of the day though is their team has to be they have to be consistent. If they're going to play as great as they did in the last game, they got to play. Paul George has to be even better in this game tomorrow. And it can't just be Paul George. It has to be Amir Coffey. It has to be all the role guys. It has to be Zubac has to sit there and explode for at least 20, 30 points in the paint. They have the role guys now versus Luka and Kawhi. You got your two stars playing in the game. They've been playing. Luka's been banged up. His knee's been banged up. And he's still out there. So obviously, I think right then and there, like at this point, I think we can all agree with injuries. Just at this point, obviously, you saw Davis yesterday get banged up. Wasn't sure if he was going to come back. He ended up coming back in the game. But obviously, injuries at this point, if you could walk, you got to go. You got to play. Like if you physically cannot walk and cannot move around on the court, you're not even going to have a chance to be in there the rest of the game. But if you have a chance to go out there and play and help your team out, you have got to take advantage of that. And I think, with Kawhi Leonard, he's up in the air with it. I think it was his knee that's been bothering him as well. He's been dealing with some nagging injuries. He obviously played a lot during the regular season. But you don't know. I mean, how does he play the rest of the way? If the Clippers do advance and they beat the Mavericks, the question is he going to play the rest of the playoffs? And is that going to hurt him? Is that going to hurt their chances of moving up? Because, look, Paul George can't do everything. So I think that's the big question mark. Where do the Clippers go from this point on? Do they have the same energy that they did in the last game to come out there and beat Dallas? I don't think they're going to come close to beating them by 31. Or have any chance of that. I think this next game tomorrow is going to be a lot closer, a lot tighter. I'm sure Kyrie and Luka are going to be more motivated to come out there and put on a better performance. But I think, in the end of the day, I think Dallas could win this as well. I mean, you just don't know about Kawhi, and it's not fair to put all the pressure on Paul George and the role guys. But, that's my take on it. Obviously, it's going to be some good games. The playoffs, we're going to be here all the way through the playoffs, all the way through the finals, all the way through the offseason as well. Talking about all the free agency stuff, all the moves that we think. We're going to try and get Matthew as well on here on the next show as well, so he can give his take on things as well, because obviously we all know he's he's the Clipper guy as well. If it's not Clipper Daryl, it's definitely Matthew out there. But that's going to do it for us today on Around the NBA Playoff Edition. Our next show will be Thursday night at 6:30 p.m., 9:30 on the East Coast, right here. If you're not following our social media, make sure you are. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you're following us. We are staying as up to date as possible on what times our show will be and any news and things that we might be doing as well in the future, maybe Twitter Spaces as well. Just keep following our stuff and keep an eye on it, and we will catch you guys. We will be definitely catching you guys on Thursday. But that's going to do it for us. For Manny, Medina, and myself, I'm Aaron. Take care, guys. Have a great night and enjoy the rest of these NBA games today. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Peace!